You're watching In the Den or listening to In the Den with me, Jason Harbour. Delighted today that we've got Steve Wild with us, who's the Chief Executive of the club, also the Vice President of the RFL, which we'll talk about as well. Steve, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Jason. It's great to be in the inner sanctum. Yeah.
It's good to have you, Steve.
Yeah.
And of course, you've been involved with the club forever. How did you get involved with Swinton?
Yeah, it does feel like forever. I think my family would definitely reiterate that it seems like forever as well. I first got involved as a fan with my dad. My dad was a big rugby league fan. My dad was actually a founder member of the Folly Lane Club just after the war.
Yeah.
So he was a big rugby league fan. My mum was a massive Manchester United supporter, so that's where I've sort of been driven from in a sporting perspective. But I probably started going to Station Road on my dad's shoulders in about 1968.
Right.
So 50 odd years. Man and boy.
Yeah. And you've seen some highs and you've seen some lows. If you could pick the best moment as a fan first, what would that be?
Well, I've certainly seen plenty of lows as a fan. Joking apart, I think when you do suffer lows, and we have had our fair share of lows at Swinton, it does tend to make you a more balanced character, I think, and you appreciate the highs more.
Yes.
And I think my favourite period as a fan, purely from going along watching from the terraces, was probably in the mid-80s, watching the team that Les Holiday was captain of. We had Danny Wilson, who's probably the finest individual talent I've ever seen in a Swinton shirt. And we won the second division championship in 1985, beat Salford home and away in doing so.
Yeah.
And Salford failed to score a try in both league games, which was great. And then, unfortunately, we got relegated the following year. It was a young team led by Les, who himself missed a lot of the season through injury. And we were very, very unlucky to get relegated with a young team. But we bounced back the following year, and it was the first year of the Old Trafford Premiership finals, if you remember those. And Swinton were the first team ever to win one of those Premiership finals, the second division Premiership final, should I say? We beat Hunslet, and to see my team win on my other team's ground, kind of thing, I think that's the most cherished memory I've got as a fan.
And the opposite, I don't want to be negative, but what's been said a moment as a fan that you think, oh, that was just the worst?
Well, that's dead easy to answer, Jason, because it was at the end of the 91-92 season when we lost the ground.
Yeah.
I don't think the full facts of that have ever really emerged. I was a fan at the time, and I know the entire fan base was utterly heartbroken.
Yeah.
We probably lost 2/3 of our core support at that time.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge, but a lot of us tried to stick with it and carried on supporting the club. I think the dream back then was always that at some point in the future we'd come back to the area. But here we are 30 odd years later.
And we'll talk a bit about that a little later. So you went from a fan into being more involved with the club itself. Yeah. How did that happen?
It's been a bit of a convoluted and complicated route, really. I think it was around about 2002 when the club had been asked to vacate Gig Lane, the Bury football ground, and there was a major financial crisis going on at the time, as I recall. And I'd read about the concept of supporters' trusts, with supporters' organisations effectively taking over failing clubs, mainly in football. I think Chesterfield and Northampton were the first two, if I remember rightly. So I'd read about this and done some research, and I thought this was an opportune time to set up a supporters' trust to raise money to help the club, but not just to hand it over, but to invest in the club and then have a say on the board of directors. And through that process, I gained a position on a new board that had been created in 2002, 2003. And that was my kind of initial route in, if you will, as from an official point of view. I gave it a year, and then I stepped aside and became a fan again. And then it was probably another 10 years ahead of that. The supporter trust went into bigger and better things, and they're still going strong now.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very proud of my initial involvement with that.
Yes.
And then it was 2013, again, the club had hit the financial buffers. It was Dave Jones who contacted me at that point, and he explained to me that a new company was being set up, and would I like to be involved in that? So I got involved again in 2013, going into 2014, just as very much a part-time volunteer role.
Yeah.
Because my professional background is HMRC.
Yes.
That's where I've spent most of my working life. And I took early retirement from HMRC in 2015, and it was just at that point I was offered a little bit of a side role doing some admin work with the club, and I thought, well, why not? It'll, something interesting to do with the club that I love. And through various incredibly convoluted routes since 2015, I am where I am now.
And what do you enjoy most about it?
I'm not sure I do enjoy it all the time. Joking about it, but I'm so proud to be able to have this day-to-day link with the club that I've grown up loving and supporting. And I think if you cut me in half, it would say Swinton all the way through. It is incredibly stressful. Every day is different. There's a new challenge every day. You wake up in the morning, know you're going to have challenges, and you know what those challenges are, and then a fresh challenge it comes into your inbox, and you have to deal with that. And before you know it, you've spent the entire day dealing with something you had no intention of dealing with, and so this repeats. I do want to emphasise really that we're a professional rugby league club, but we don't just throw 13 blokes on a field on a Sunday afternoon. There's so much that goes on in between. Even in recent weeks when we've not even been playing games, it is so intense on a day-to-day level, and it impacts on all of our relationships with each other on the board, with our families, and it is incredibly stressful, but also enjoyable, because you're making a difference with the club that you love.
And incredibly rewarding. I mean, I'm new to it. You've been involved, as you've just articulated, for a long, long time. I think I'm probably into nearly 8 months now with the club. Loving every minute. And it's often Kathy, my wife, will say to me, "Are we going to do any work today that you get paid for?" Because you just get dragged into it, don't you? And there's so many things we've done in the last 6 months you would not believe that we would have got involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. During those 10 years, there's been some very, very difficult times. In 2017, when there was ultimately a change of ownership, the club was in severe financial trouble, off the back of contracts that had been agreed, which I had nothing to do with. I hastened had. And it became very apparent that unless we did something very quickly and very soon, that we were in danger of losing the club. Conversations with the RFL were along the lines of, if you want to bump the company and start again, there's absolutely no guarantee you'll get back in the league. In fact, I was told off the record that if we went, we were gone.
Right.
So we had a massive issue to deal with. Myself and Alan Marshall, the director at the time, we were having to deal with things on an hourly basis, not just a daily basis, to try and keep the club afloat whilst we garnered as much support as we could possibly get. We sold players. We asked the Rugby League for financial assistance. I was going to individual friends asking for financial assistance. The supporters trust, the wider support base, were absolutely fantastic. Myself and Alan secured loans from the council, offering ourselves as and our assets as assurance.
Yeah.
So we really put our heads on the block
Yeah.
for the club back in those days. Tried to put it in a position which would enable further assistance to come in, which he did.
Yeah.
And we created a new board, and other individuals joined the board of directors, and were also generous. But it was a real team effort right across the board, which saved the club.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about
Yeah.
it. We were at one time 48 hours from losing the club
Right.
altogether. That's how stark it was. So I'm very, very proud of my personal input in all of that.
Yeah.
And Alan as well,
Yeah.
who's not directly with the club anymore. Only me and Alan know what we went through
of
at that time. And then, of course, we had a new board of directors, and Andy, who's now at Rochdale, was very instrumental on that.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of credit to Andy for what we did from there on in.
Yeah.
2019, we finished halfway up the championship.
Yeah.
Got some decent central funding coming in.
Yeah.
And things looked rosy in the short term, but in the long term, there was obviously the contentious issue of the rebranding that was knocking around, and that's probably another topic for another day. But obviously that didn't end well. Shall we say? And I was not in the same position as I was 2 years earlier, because the financial situation was a lot better. But certainly from a logistical point of view, we had problems because we had no board. All the relationships we built up to that point in terms of sponsorships, we were back to square one. So I was in a position where we had to start again in terms of recruiting a board, recreating all those partnerships, recreating our trust with the RFL, which was also a process because we were putting special measures. So again, a really, really difficult time that we managed to pull through eventually. And then just when we were getting back in an even keel, we had COVID. So we had all the issues with COVID. So it's you can never plan any of these events. You just have to deal with them as they come up. Post COVID, I met Damien. I felt that we needed to be doing more off the pitch. It wasn't good enough to just keep putting a team on the field and keep the club ticking over. We need to be doing more. And I came across Damien, and he came in and absolutely revolutionised the off-field stuff in terms of revitalising the foundation, which had pre-existed, but I'd never done anything really. So I give a lot of credit to Damien for revitalising the off-field stuff. And then I met the likes of Andy and Barry and others who come in and also made huge contributions, not just in terms of the assistance of volunteer help, but hard cash. Stuart as well, of course, and more recently bumping into yourself, Jason, and getting you on board. So it's been a really convoluted up and down road, but a really interesting story.
Amazing.
To how we got where we are today.
You're listening to In the Den with Steve Wild, Chief Executive of the club. More in a moment's time.